Hi everyone, I'm Tara Shannon. Welcome to Tara Talks. Today's my very special guest is the wonderful and the incredibly talented and gifted Kathie Donovan.
Thank you.
One of our leaders in the Ottawa area and beyond. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for thinking of me. I really appreciate it. I've long wanted to sit down and have a chat with you.
We were talking earlier about a few things that you've learned along the way, like a few key things that you've learned along the way that you would share with other leaders or that you find is really important for other leaders in our community.
Well, you know, one of the great subjects that comes up, I do a thing called the Women in Business Circle after the course that I teach, the Owning Your Fabulousness workshop. And I did a group coaching situation. One of the Women in Business Circle involved a number of very high-level, important women.
Okay.
And boundaries was the biggest subject. It's the biggest subject in every workshop I teach because women have been conditioned, I like to say conned, into thinking that they don't deserve to be at the front of the bus. They feel they have to look after everybody else's needs, and when everybody else is taken care of, then they'll get looked after, which never happens. If you're a mom of 7, you know what I'm talking about because you're conditioned, I say conned, into thinking that you need to take care of everybody else before you. So what I like to share with people is your boundaries are your protection from people trouncing all over your good.
Yeah.
And they're your way to hold on to what you've accumulated in your life through education and experience. Nobody can take away what you've earned through that unless you diminish it by allowing people to step all over your boundaries.
Yeah.
So boundaries are, you know, they're protective, but not in the way that we're being defensive. They're protective in the way that we have something very valuable we need to hold on to. And that becomes your gold. And you know what's interesting is that we are afraid to put up a boundary because we're afraid the people on the other side of it are going to freak out and do all kinds of things in our imagination. They never do, they don't. They'll just move on to either somebody else or they'll think you're weird. It doesn't matter what they think. But boundaries to me it's been a fantastic, I call it a power tool in my life.
It is.
And I have lots of them in lots of my relationships, and that really keeps me from feeling diminished or allowing anybody to take away what I've earned in my life.
That was one of my hardest lessons.
Of course.
Because it felt mean.
Right. No, but that's what I hear all the time.
Started.
That's what I hear. Or people tell me in the boardroom that it feels arrogant. And I'm like, dude, you're just owning your power. That's not arrogance, that's speaking your truth, you're just not used to it.
There was so much freedom on the other side though. Once I got past the feeling of uncomfortable and, you know, writing that unhealthy pattern I had and started making it healthy and saying, you know, I matter, you know, and this boundary is healthy, it's because it's what I need. So when I trudged through all that on the other side, I was like, oh, this is great.
It's freedom, right?
It's so freeing.
And I love that you said the other message that I was going to share, which is, I am important and I matter. That's one of my mantras. I am important and I matter, and that's another thing I love to teach women because we have been conditioned, conned, I like to say, into thinking that we're not important and we don't matter. It's just not
Where
true.
do you think that comes from? How did we get there?
Well, if we look at the history and how we, and the roles that we had, if you look at what men did, they went out and hunted and fished and brought home the goods, and women stayed home and looked after the family. The roles didn't seem quite, you know, the guy could bang on his chest and scream out loud, and the woman was like, oh, I'm going to take care, I've got to stoke the fire. And, you know, and then if you look at how we were raised, when I was a girl, very often mom stayed home. In my family, my mom worked, but in many families, so you didn't have a role in the world. You had a very important role at home, but it wasn't recognized in that ego sense, I guess. So then we forget that we have a role and it is important and we do matter. And now we're in the workforce and we're owning our power in the workplace, but we still don't believe that we're important and we matter.
Yeah, I think we could talk for hours and hours and hours over a few bottles of wine at some point. So this has been Tara Talks with my very special guest, Kathie Donovan. Thank you for watching.